As is often the case, as a society is developing, we're going to see haves and have-nots, people who are in charge, and thus we're going to see palaces. So we're looking at one of the Umayyad palaces. Now, urban palaces generally do not survive because urban areas are going to be conquered, reconquered. You have different groups coming through. They're going to burn everything in their path. But we do have rural palaces that often survive, and these palaces, these Islamic palaces, tend to rival the great Roman villas. They're massive. And they're intended to show authority over new land, sort of an expression of the owner's wealth. And they have several functions. Usually there's going to be agricultural enterprises in the area. Yes, we're in the desert, but that doesn't mean that they're farming crops necessarily, although in some cases they are with irrigation. But oftentimes it's livestock, things like goats that can live in much harsher climates. These are also contact points between neighbors and serve as a retreat, especially in the summer. And what we're seeing is a complex of buildings consisting of living quarters, service quarters, a small mosque, as well as a bath. And when we look at it, there's a couple of interesting features. First of all, you look at the floor plan and you notice there's these large open courtyards. We're in the middle of the desert in Jordan. So rain isn't really an issue. You can have a lot of outdoor spaces without too much concern. There is a mosque right up near the entry. They're in such a remote area that going to a mosque is not really going to be something that's practical. But more interestingly, we have these towers, and 4 of them, 1 at the front and 2 on the north side of the castle palace actually have an interesting feature. They have indoor plumbing. Now, this is a time when in medieval Europe, people don't bathe because they're afraid that water will make them sick. And here we are in the desert. This palace contains baths, just like we've seen from the Greeks and the Romans, and they have functioning bathrooms. We're in a whole different sort of society here. We're in a whole different culture, and they're generally looking back at the Greeks for a lot of their cultural ideas. So, of course, baths, hygiene, cleanliness are going to be a big part of that. Now, we also have the Malwiya Minaret, and this is in Iraq. And this is known as the snail shell minaret, or the Malwiya, which means snail shell minaret. And it's meant to be a striking and novel minaret. Now, the purpose of a minaret is to call prayer. Remember, in Islam, you have to go to prayer 5 times a day. If you don't have the ability to get into the mosque for prayer, you can pray from anywhere where you can hear the prayers, or they're played, or in some cases you can provide them yourself. But this is 60 feet tall. It's roughly 6 stories, and you can only imagine trying to yell down to someone on the ground from 6 floors up. It's not really practical. So in this case, this minaret serves a different purpose. It used to be part of the largest mosque in the world. The mosque is now missing. Now it stands alone. It's made of brick, and it's got this spiral ramp, and its function is to mark the presence of Islam in the area. So the area around it is fairly flat, and you could see this from, you could imagine, say 20 miles away, as a mark of the power of Islam within that geographic region, much like we see massive churches built on hills so that you can see them from a great distance. Unfortunately, in 2005, we see damage during the Iraq conflict, and it's unclear at present whether that was inflicted by the American forces or by Iraqi forces, but we do know that it was damaged. And that picture in the upper right, it shows the debris, but also gives you a view of the land around it. Again, giving you that idea that from 10 or 20 miles away, you could see this and see the power of Islam as you come into the area.